Hey guys, Adam Rose, Vice President and Senior Loan Officer of Western Ohio Mortgage here in Sydney, Ohio. Today is another episode of the Mortgage Guy Podcast, and today we're going to talk about some recent events that you're not aware of because it's not in the news. But the Ohio Mortgage Bankers Association, we had our day at the Capitol as the incoming president that will be sworn in May. Obviously, this is one of the duties of mine, including national advocacy that's going to happen in D.C. in April. But the whole purpose of this meeting, just so you're aware of it and what we're doing and how involved we are, is just to kind of, inform our state legislators of some of the issues that we face in our industry and how we can go about fixing them. Unfortunately, none of them really had any solutions, of course. They're relying on us to give them some ideas. And the biggest topic was housing supply, right? On this show, if you've watched it, we've talked about supply and demand issues. And the short supply with this high demand that we have is what's kind of keeping prices so high. And, with the mix of the high prices and the high rates and other costs associated with financing houses, it's just not very affordable, right? I mean, affordability is a big problem. And fixing the housing supply, I do believe, is an underlying issue that can help solve some of that issue. It's not an easy fix, all right? I mean, anybody that's watching this, anybody that's in the industry knows fixing a housing supply issue isn't just a do this and you're good. It takes years to deal with it. So one of the first things that we talked about, and I want to get some involvement on some what your opinions are, we did talk about people aging in place and how to help those individuals as well. So there was a lot of discussion about the State House trying to push down a reassessment freeze. A freeze on property tax increases. As you've seen, and we're in Shelby County, the property taxes have gone up dramatically since 2019, 2020. And it's creating some havoc on people that are trying to stay in their home. If you're a lender out there, I mean, how many phone calls have you received that their payment has gone up? And obviously we know insurance or taxes is usually the cause of that. But we feel those calls all the time, and taxes are a big issue. So that was a topic that we discussed with our senators and our House of Representatives. Insurance regulation was another one. Not sure where they can go with this. Again, always open to comments, of course. But insurance regulation, that's another thing that's gone up dramatically. But again, insurance premiums have kind of gone up just because of the way the market is in general, right? I mean, we've seen such a massive appreciation over the last 5 years in home prices and the costs of construction and replacement costs and all this. And that's why it kind of follows the lead as well. But certainly there might be something that could be done there, as well as energy costs. I don't know if anybody's looked at their electric bill lately, but my God, it's absurdly expensive. And people that are scraping by paycheck to paycheck, it's just not feasible for this to continue. So those were all topics that we brought up to congressmen and the senators about digging into how to kind of restrict this growth rate and this expense more than anything. So aging people staying in home, even first-time homebuyers are in the home, keep that payment affordable as much as possible. Because if you look around the market, pull up Zillow, there are more foreclosures on the market than there have been over the last 5 years, right? And we kind of saw this coming. People that have bought these homes in the last 2 or 3 years with a little bit higher rates, higher price points, you can afford it on paper. Just because you can afford it on paper doesn't mean you should buy it, right? You got to pay attention to that. Take into account the other expenses involved with the home, with heating and cooling and just general maintenance, so we can keep people in their home. But anyways, it's just some topics that we talked about at the State House that I wanted to bring up. And they all talk about other ideas on trying to fix the housing market or assist in the housing market, and they keep bringing up, giving home buyers tax credits. Well, hey, I'm all about that. If you're a home buyer and you can get a tax credit, I think that's fantastic. But that is not going to help our current housing situation that we're in. Now, is it? Giving a home buyer a credit or money back for buying a home, right? Whether it's in the form of some sort of discount up front, or when they file their taxes, they get like a rebate, a tax credit, right? $2,000, $3,000, whatever it might be. I feel like that's going to exacerbate our current situation, right? I mean, if we already have high demand with a low supply, if you tell everybody they're going to get a tax credit for buying a house now in the next 24 months, the amount of demand is going to go up even higher. But that didn't fix our supply issue, did it? Typically not. I think our issue is trying to figure out ways for people that incentivize them to put their homes on the market. And there's two things on that. All right. So I want to throw this out there for comment, see what people think, or if you're a seller. So let's say, and it's not necessarily your existing home, your primary residence. It's not just say that, right? I mean, people that are stuck in their 2s to 3% rates don't want to come off of it. Maybe their home is their dream home and they just want to stay put anyways. So let's not talk about that specifically. But if you look at the market, any market that you're in, a lot of individuals have a lot of rental portfolios, investment properties, multifamilies, single-family investments, a lot of stuff going on there. So I had brought up, and just for food for thought, right? Please do comment and give me your thoughts. How do we incentivize investors to come off property? That's a question, right? Obviously, you're not talking back to me, but so I want you to comment on that. And one of the things I talked about is when you have an investment property for a long time, it's probably cash flowing pretty well. So what's going to make you come off of it? Is it a special tax incentive, right? So depending on what your tax bracket currently is, capital gains tax could be 0%, 15%, 20%, right, across the board. So what if there's a slash in the capital gains rates, or capital gains tax rate on the sale of residential real estate, 1 to 4 unit family homes? Just a thought. Do we think that might jostle some inventory loose? I don't know if it will. Couldn't hurt. It's not a bad idea, right? Some people hate me for it because they're like, oh, they've already got money. You don't need to give them a tax break. Well, that's not what it's about. It's about fixing the housing supply issue. And so that's just something that came to mind, and I'm open to feedback. So hit me with it. Anyways, there's also someone that's in the Senate with the state. Great guy. Very sharp. And I don't know if you recall, if you watched this show, but maybe a year and a half ago, I talked about there was a bill in Congress that was trying to do something about the hedge firms buying up a lot of the residential real estate, specifically 1 to 3 unit homes. And it hasn't really gone anywhere. Well, the same style of bill is in the State House, and there is getting almost no backing whatsoever. And I'm kind of torn by it as well, right? So on the prior podcast, when I talked about the one that's at the U.S. Congress, the problem is I believe in free market. I believe in capitalism. I don't believe you should be able to tell people how they can do business, certain things they can and cannot do. Obviously, regulations different, but in general, the style of business that they do. So I'm kind of torn, right? What the legislation is stating is companies like BlackRock, even larger, well, they're probably the biggest one, but there's other hedge firms out there. We just always say BlackRock because that's the name that comes to mind. But there's a ton of them out there. And the rule that he's trying to put in place is, and now this is on a per county basis, okay, that you're allowed to have up to 50 units, 50 properties. And the whole different LLC thing is not going to work because it's going to be based off the holding company, whoever the mothership is, okay? So once you hit property number 51, they're going to apply an extreme tax against you where it makes no sense for you to buy property number 51. By doing that, they're hoping that some of these large hedge firms will unload some of their inventory in certain markets, right? Which again, it's this thing where it tears you because we're in a free market, and I totally believe that, and I support that. But there has to be some sort of fix or some sort of action against some of these large hedge firms that are controlling this market, the rental market specifically, and then the price controls that they're putting in place, and they're just controlling it. So I support it. I think something has to be done, unfortunately, and so basically, again, these hedge firms can have up to 50 homes in one. In any county, right? So it can be in Logan County, they can have 50, they can have 50 in Shelby County, they can have 50 in Montgomery, whatever, and they don't get hit with this. But 51, they do. So if they're already over that mark in a specific county, they need to start unloading them. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's enough to help free up a little bit of supply, maybe push down the cost of housing or rents in general? Because the last number I looked at last year, one of the largest hedge firms in the country owned over 56,000 1 to 3 unit family homes, 56,000. And the bill that was proposed, I believe, was to unload a certain percentage of that over a 6-year period of time. that could have unloaded up to 10,000 units across the country every year. That kind of injection of supply into the market could help settle prices down and garner a little bit more competition. Houses might sit a little bit longer because there's more houses to look at. Just a thought. What are your thoughts, guys? I'm always interested in hearing what you have to say, as long as you're nice about it. But that's what we were doing at the State House, talking to our representatives, talking about those issues. They have invited us directors with the Ohio Mortgage Bankers to come back to talk with the Business Caucus at the State House to put together some plans and ideas on helping to assist new home buyers and strategies of getting in the market, as well as helping with this housing supply. But again, there is no just flip a switch, this is what you do, it fixes it. It's not the case. And then, which I didn't touch on, but we also talked about reducing restrictions on new construction, of course. We feel like it's not really going to be a big state issue that they can do. It's a lot about your local municipalities and your local authorities in regards to zoning restrictions and costs, tap fees. There's a lot of stuff that goes with that. But we do believe that is something that the State House should push back to the counties to kind of open up some more development to get some more housing to help fix our supply as well, because we got to get the existing aging stock on the market, those people out of those homes into newer homes. So that's where we're at. So feel free to comment, like it, guys. Remember, subscribe on YouTube. Always want to hear what you have to say. And check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'll catch you all next week.